So very warm welcome to all our attendees and the panelists for today and the team from Maldives for this quality improvement tour of Southeast Asia, and the topic for today, experience of quality improvement in maternal, neonatal and child health from Maldives. To the focus country of Maldives, we welcome all the esteemed panelists and the attendees once again. And I would just like to quickly introduce the moderator for today's session, Dr. Suprabha Patnaik, ma'am, who is Associate Professor at Department of Neonatology and Vice President at Nationwide Quality of Care Network. We welcome you, ma'am, and I hand over the screen to you and the mic to you to showcase the session details for today and introduce our speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashna. A very good afternoon to all, and a very warm welcome on behalf of Nationwide Quality of Care Network to all our esteemed dignitaries, panelists, and the attendees, and the team from Maldives. We are very grateful to all of you to be part of this very important experience sharing session and the cross-learning which we get from all this. So as part of our South Asia tour of quality improvement initiative and the experience sharing, we welcome the Maldives team for today's session. So it's an experience of quality improvement in the maternal and neonatal child health setup from the Maldives. So today's agenda is going to be a opening remarks by Professor Vikram Datta and Dr. Rajesh Mehta, followed by the sharing of information by the Quality Commissioner from Maldives on QOC initiative, Ministry of Health, followed by a role of QISL in the Indira Gandhi Memorial Hospital. And thereafter, we are going to learn from the experience of a facility-based newborn care from a hospital, from the consultant pediatrician, and then a quality initiative project where they have taken up in the pediatric ward to reduce the barriers in the discharge process. And followed by a quality. I would request all the participants to kindly put up their questions in the chat box. And with this, let's start the session. So we start our session with Dr. Vikram Datta, who is the President NQOCN. So I request sir to take up the session regarding the scale up and the spread of QI in India. Dr. Vikram Datta.
Thank you so much, Suprabha. A very warm welcome to all colleagues from Maldives, WHO CRO Regional Advisor, Dr. Rajesh Mehta, Dr. Shams Syed from WHO Headquarters, Geneva Quality Team. Thank you so much, sir, for being a part of this session despite your intensely busy schedule and time zone difference. We're very pleased to have you here, and it is a very encouraging presence indeed. So I have the pleasure of very quickly setting the agenda, and I will be just sharing my screen and taking you very rapidly through the scale and spread of quality improvement initiatives in India. Just 3 or 4 slides where we are going to just trace and retrace the journey of quality improvement across India. So as you are aware, Nationwide Quality of Care Network is a voluntary network which is formed by like-minded individuals and teams working on quality improvement across 15 states of India using point of care quality improvement method. In August 2020, we started an online communities of practice session for QI teams across India and Southeast Asia. And we are a technical partner to Government of India for the flagship Lakshya program. NQCN India was voted as a top 10 Twitter handles globally, tweeting on quality improvement in healthcare in 2018. So we have so far touched 1 million lives with more than 4,100 healthcare professionals who are trained in quality improvement. We have a large team of 241 national QI coaches ably assisting the Government of India and Ministries of Health and various private sector hospitals. And right now, 231 healthcare facilities are directly being mentored in implementing POCI across India. And the deliveries impacted with this initiative of the network are over 500,000. So this is in brief about the presence of NQCN in India and how we've catalyzed the quality improvement and point of care quality improvement method in India. So basically, I would just like to show you how we did it. So what was the implementation science behind this? So I will take you very rapidly. So this was adapted, and this is now coming up in this month's BMJ Open Quality also as an original article. So we had the method, and this method was given to us by the support of WHO CRO and various development partners. This was the POCI method. As friends, all of you know, and the various countries in Southeast Asia region are testimony to that. This was an easy to understand method. It was easy to adapt by all hierarchical tiers of the health system, clinically and contextually feasible. It had a direct effect on patient outcome, which was demonstrable. And above all, in the South Asian context, it was affordable. So this was the method. Now with this method, using the adapted TRIP framework, we poured upon it the communication flow and the information methodology. So we decided that a two-way feedback system between the healthcare workers and the health system would be established, and it was indeed established. We identified and nurtured the change champions. We ensured access to guidelines and skill-based mentorings to the healthcare workers. We had the online and on-site mentorings through expert talks, webinars, etc. And we had regular connections with members through online groups, chats, blogs, forums, etc. And lastly, the best part, which was appreciated by all the teams, was experience sharing, which in the pre-pandemic era was on-site, and now it has moved to the online forum, like the one which you are attending. Now, once we had the communication flow with the method in place, we decided that it was paramount for us to seek health system support. And health system support consisted of seeking the support from the leadership and commitment to QI. And friends, as you can see here, the entire Ministry of Health and even from WHO Geneva and WHO CRO, we have got the support of the leadership. And that is definitely the reason why quality improvement has nurtured and is blooming in this region of the world. There was clarity in financial allocations and disbursement for QI initiatives. And here I would compliment the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and the various national health missions which took upon this task. There was a functional quality management system, re-engineering of patient care, and a simplified dashboard data management system, which was improvised and contextually adapted by the various facilities. Now, these were directly rolled to the POCI end user, which was a spectrum of health administrators, nurses and doctors, frontline healthcare workers, and pre-service healthcare workers. And finally, we will come to the practice part. This was the implementation of the local innovations by the point of care teams. And like you're going to hear the Maldives team today, and previously we heard from the Bhutan team, the Bangladesh team, and various other country and international experiences of using quality improvement. These implementation innovations using POCI directly improve the patient outcome, patient safety, improve the key indicators, patient satisfaction scores, and in turn, finally improve the end user efficiency and satisfaction. And we try to hardwire the change for the sustenance. And this is the working model, that is the implementation framework of translating research into practice, which was beautifully amalgamated. And the POCI method was, contextually adapted using the TRIP framework to implement POCI scale up across India. Now, this table is something we are really very proud about. And this table tells you that over these last 5 to 6 years, how this movement from a single workshop which WHO CRO hosted in 2015, and the seeds were sown in the region. And I'm sure Syed sir would be very, very pleased to look at it. How this moved and the population which benefited from it. And sir, I would like to mention here that the interventions of the network alone have affected close to 1.3 million populations who were directly benefited by the QI initiatives. Multiple stakeholders, as you can see, were involved right through the years. The number of facilities increased, the number of people who were trained, and right through there was a trickling of original publications, high quality, resources, guidelines, studies which were developed right through. And what is the best from a public health point of view, the return on investment, it was not very costly. In fact, the cost per million population ranged between a low of 1630 to a high of $65.21 per million population. The key features of this implementation strategy, you can see on the right side a collage of some of the activities which were done right through the scale up, but that these models were developed to overcome context-specific challenges, which is very, very important. And I'm sure all the teams that are working on point of care quality improvement know that the beauty of this methodology is that it adapts very rapidly to context-specific challenges, gives solutions which are brought out by the team, for the team, and work in the settings which are unique where the team is working. The various context-specific variations which we assessed were based on the types of learners. They were depending on the healthcare students and two health service professionals. We tried to explore the linkages between different types of facilities and try to see how the community could be involved into facility-based QI program, and linking the teaching facility and making them the QI mentors and directly taking it to the pre-service education. Looking how we could develop a hub and spoke model where the geographical proximity of the facilities to each other could be exploited to roll out and scale up quality improvement, and involvement of other stakeholders like government health department, development partners, etc. into the scale up, and using different types of mentoring models which have been explored more during the pandemic. So these were the various implementation strategies. And as you can see from this diagram, this is the final implementation framework which evolved. And the full article is going to be accessible very shortly next month in the BMJ Open Polity. So this, you can see that initially the support at the macro level was provided by UN agencies, and we are indeed very grateful to WHO headquarters and WHO CRO and UNICEF India for supporting these initiatives. Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, the Lakshya Program Management Unit, and the NQCN National Mentoring Group, along with the meso level support from the state NHMs, directly hand-holding the micro-level facilities which were present at the district and the sub-district level, and large academic medical colleges which were placed at the district level. So once I say this was the initial part. These various support levels at the three level beautifully gelled together. I am not saying that there were no challenges, but these challenges, friends, existed. But they were beautifully synergized, and they led to the development of 10 strategies of QI implementation. For further reading, I would request you to refer to the article which will be coming, like I just mentioned previously. So these 10 strategies of QI implementation over 2015 to 2020 were adopted, were innovated, and were developed in the country to scale up POCI across the nation. We were going all good till the COVID pandemic struck in March 2020. Well, it struck in January, but our movements across the nation got severely disrupted in March 2020. And that was the time when we realized that it was a good opportunity. And this was the opportunity. And that was the time when rapidly the teams got together, and there came the birth of the innovative digital communities of practice, the most vibrant communities of practice, which was initially launched by Professor Vinod Paul, member Niti Aayog, and with the blessings of the Union Minister of Health and Family Welfare, Dr. Harshvardhan ji, and the support of major development partners like BMJ, Oxford, ISQA, Astarica. There were so many of them that all joined hands. And this communities of practice is now the platform, friends, on which, with the support of WHO CRO and WHO headquarters, it has now extended as a major learning platform dedicated exclusively to the skill building and enhancement of knowledge of team across the Southeast Asia member regions for sharing their knowledge related to quality improvement. So this is in brief. Kindly excuse me if I've taken more time, but this is in brief the 6 years journey which I've tried to summarize in 6 slides. So as is always said, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And I would say that the formation of the network communities of practice and the extension to the South Asia region with the support of WHO and various partner organizations is a journey which has a long way to go. And I'm sure that today I'm very pleased to host my team from Maldives, which is going to share their experiences and enlighten us with the journey and how we can synergize and take this point of care quality improvement movement forward to greater heights. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Datta, sir, for sharing with us the TRIP framework, the implementation framework, and bringing up with the COP platform at the time of the adversity of the pandemic. There's a lot of learning which all of us have to do from these 6 years of work which has been done by you and your team. So thank you, sir, very much for sharing. And now, as Professor Datta has shared with us the scale up and the spread of QI in the country of India, now let's take it forward to the Southeast Asia region, and let's hear from Dr. Rajesh Mehta, sir, the regional advisor, WHO CRO, sir. Welcome, sir. Regarding the spread of QI in Southeast Asia region and the way forward from Dr. Rajesh Mehta, sir.
No, thank you so much. And we just heard a beautiful story of progress which is made by one network in India, which is that nationwide quality of care network, and all because of the championship by Dr. Datta and the team, including Suprabha, Sushil, Srivastav, and a lot of champions they have created in turn within the network. So that's just the importance and beauty of one network in India. But I assure you there are others who are doing work on quality improvement. In addition to and under the umbrella provided by the Government of India and the state governments. So a lot of work has been going on, and we just had a glimpse of what a network of committed people can deliver. And we need similar enthusiasm and championship in all countries, in all part of the countries within the country. So this is the dynamics which need to be put together in a sustained manner. So this virtual community of practice is not an innovation as much as we can see it everywhere in the world. Shams, my colleague from WHO, also runs a community of practice which is global level, and it antedates what we did here in this region last year. But it takes time to get a formal shape, and community of practice is growing in the region with the participation of the stakeholders and the teams from different countries. With that, I must say that it was good to see that Vikram mentioned actions are required at different levels of health system to take quality of care, make it in quality, good quality, safe at the same time, respectful and equitable at the same time. So all of that requires actions at multiple levels in the system. So therefore, it was good to see that Government of India, state governments, then within the hospitals, the leadership in the hospital, and then the healthcare teams themselves. So similarly, we are happy that Maldives is today presenting in a similar manner. So we have three sets of presentations. One will come from the Ministry of Health by Ms. Taslima, who is the Commissioner of Quality Improvement in Ministry of Health, Republic of Maldives. And then we will have, QI department in a big hospital, government hospital called Indira Gandhi Memorial Hospital in Malé, in the capital city of Maldives. How the hospital leadership is trying to, forge and sustain quality improvement in the healthcare system. And then we will have examples from pediatrics and newborn care. I have had the pleasure of working, Vikram, with people in Maldives for a long time. So we have Dr. Jennifer, for example, who is leading the reproductive health department in Ministry of Health, with her predecessors, with senior colleagues. And then among professionals, I remember Dr. Afif, who's now heading the Council of medical profession in Maldives. On the way, Dr. Niaf was there. Then we had Niyasha Ibrahim, and now Faisal Ahmed, who is a champion of neonatology in Maldives and has been supporting quality improvement work there. So Maldives is one country which is small in size, but spread out into 1,000 islands. And they have done reasonably well, I think rather well, quietly working through whatever we provided as in terms of technical support, right from regional meetings, which Vikram was mentioning. But there are 9 other countries who have adopted quality improvement approaches. And POCI has actually enthused many people because of its simplicity. Vikram is correct. It was demystification of the concept. Concept is not new at all. For 40 years, this has been happening in Africa, in some parts of the world. But this time we thought, let's bring it to the field level so that the frontline workers can understand this problem solving approach. So that's the beauty of this public health model to run quality improvement. And we learned a lot from the global movement. Shams and my colleagues from MNH side, the Maternal Newborn Health and Headquarter, they are running a global quality, equity, dignity network. And we learned a lot from there, and we try to translate into our region. And therefore, we are happy to see the progress which is happening. So thankful again to Vikram and the team at NQOCN to host such knowledge sharing activities and continuously providing capacity building support. They have recently, Shams, the e-POCI training is ready and will be finalized. There are some bugs it seems, and they're attending to that. And that will be available to provide free of cost courses, remotely self-paced courses or synchronized courses in point of care quality improvement. And also there is a course for coaches, the quality improvement experts who have become the coaches or who want to become coach and mentor other quality improvement teams. So there will be an e-course on coaching as well from this platform. So we are happy to support such efforts and we look forward to continued journey, bringing in technical assistance from HQ, from regional office, from country office, and looking forward to leadership of ministries of health and champions within the country. And of course, partnership is greatly important. In our POCI experience, we found UNICEF and UNFPA very natural allies, and USAID has supported a lot. So you will see all documents of POCI which come from the regional office are endorsed by at least the 4 organizations. But we are happy to continue to build further collaborations and partnerships and continue to work together. This is beginning of the journey. And we want to see that in everyday work of each healthcare team, quality improvement becomes a culture. It's a work culture. It's part of their routine work. It's nothing additional that we are wanting them to do. So Vikram, the journey is long. I am sure you are well prepared to support, and we are happy to now offer the stage to Maldives through our moderator, Dr. Suprabha. Over.
Thank you, Rajesh Mehta, sir, for those words of encouragement. And we are indeed thankful to the support which we have got from you and your office, sir. Thank you, sir. And moving forward to this interesting session on sharing of experience from the Maldives, now I welcome Ms. Taslina Usman, who is the Quality Commissioner from the Ministry of Health, Maldives. She's going to talk about the quality of care initiatives which the Ministry of Health, Maldives have taken up in their country. So now I welcome Ms. Taslina to move on.
Thank you very much. I hope you hear my voice clearly.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, first of all, let me virtually welcome the President and team of NQCN and Regional Advisor, Dr. Rajesh Mehta, and WHO colleagues, WHO country office, as well as Sierra colleagues to Maldives. Had it not been for COVID, hopefully we would have been having it physically in Maldives, since it is the NQOCN South Asia tour QI experience from Maldives. So a very good afternoon to everyone. I would also like to acknowledge Dr. Faisal and the QI team of IGMH, the panelists and presenters who are participating today. Before talking about our own initiatives, I would like to thank the WHO country office and CRO for supporting all initiatives in improving health and well-being of the society. And also we have seen that WHO has taken a special interest and initiatives in improving quality of care of the services provided. This is one particular platform I would say that due to this initiative, we had the opportunity to participate in this regional learning platform to be part of the point of care continuous quality improvement circle of NQOCN. And with this initiative, we actually had initial training. It was conducted in the Maldives, as well as we also participated the trainings in India. And with that, we had master trainers like Dr. Faisal, who actually went ahead and conducted training in several atolls in the country as part of the essential newborn care. I would like to mention that between 2016 and 2019, 270 professionals, which is about 15 to 20 in each atoll, were trained on essential newborn care and point of care continuous improvement, quality improvement. We still have to go and do for 4 more atolls. And I think had it not been for COVID, we would have basically covered the whole nation. When it comes to Maldives healthcare system, we have achieved a lot. I mean, each island have a health facility, each atoll has a hospital, and we have regional facilities. Currently, we have developed a tertiary level hospital in South. We are developing one in North, and we have 3 more coming up. However, we know that we have come to a junction where we believe that further positive results will only come by focusing on quality of care that we deliver. So looking into some of the QOC initiatives, we have developed a quality of care framework. That's a quality of care plan. Healthcare quality standards. We have published healthcare quality standard, which has about 625 measurable elements with 125 standards and 25 criteria, based on 25 criteria. We have initiated QI cells like IGMH being the tertiary hospital in Male. They already have a QI cell, but we have also initiated QI cells in other, in the tertiary level hospitals that we are developing, as well as focusing on same in the regional level facilities. We have QI focal points at atoll level and link professionals at island level as well. Taken up a lot of QI improvement projects, which is initiated across the country. Among them, some of the projects I believe will be presented today from IGMH. We use the healthcare quality standards to assess healthcare facilities and then find out the gaps. We continue case reviews, and the main reason why we do the case reviews to understand the gap and recommend improvement initiatives in addition to understanding what are the priority focused areas. We are developing, in fact, I wouldn't say developing, rather trying to adopt clinical treatment guidelines to the Maldives, focusing on disease conditions that are common. Our clinical treatment guidelines or treatment pathways, it's mandatory that we have the level of care included in that, because we have, due to the geographical nature of the country, we have referral pathways from the lowest level to the highest level. One of the major concerns, I would say, is in developing human resources. We are already, we have a lack of human resources, Maldivians. We depend on expatriate workforce, especially when it comes to atolls. We have almost 90%, let's say 95% of the doctors who are working are expatriates from different countries. Majority of the nurses, about 60% of them are, again, expatriates. So we do have a major constraint when it comes to human resource, and especially when it comes to training human resource on quality of care, training on clinical audits, on continuous improvement, on root cause analysis. These are some of the major concerns that we have during, in this human resource development. However, we are trying to develop an institutionalized mechanism for internal quality improvement, including, changing the mindset of the people who work. The mandate given to me is basically an external quality assurance mechanism. However, the focus is initially on internal quality assurance mechanism, and with the presentation that was done by NQ, the president of NQOC, and I believe that that is a way forward in actually starting an internal quality assurance, or continuing the efforts by the healthcare providers in the hospitals. Going back to this opportunity that we are getting to present the initiatives of government main tertiary level hospital, IGMH, I think it's a golden chance to learn and share experience, to get feedback from the panelists as well as other participants. And I hope, and it is actually, and I would say on behalf of Ministry of Health, that the same platform, we would get the opportunity in the same kind of platform that we present, the private health sector present, as well as the at all level health facilities, they present their initiatives. And these initiatives, I think, I would say it's incentive for healthcare professionals to continue doing or conducting or taking up these projects. Since, we all know that when it comes to quality of care, what we provide or receive or how our service is performing, in order to understand this, we need a range of data, we need a range of information that is fact-based to help decision-making and also to help change how we work. So, this is, I would like to thank for this initiative, and hopefully we will have more of these opportunities in coming days. Before ending, I would like to reiterate the government's commitment in providing care that is safe, efficient, and reliable to our people. Our focus is currently on patient safety and also infection control and prevention. And with the mandate given, and also with the QARD cell in the Ministry of Health, we are working very closely with the clinicians and the clinical staff in ensuring availability of equipment, pharmaceutical, arranging trainings and orientation so that we can standardize our care and continue doing our quality improvement initiatives. For us, 277 is a lot in numbers. We believe the small changes in the way things are done can actually result in big improvements in quality and safety of care. And QARD of Maldives will, I can give my word that will lead the way forward in building a culture of quality within our system. And I would like to encourage Dr. Faisal in supporting team to champion these initiatives and spread it across the nation so that we have these initiatives, we see the changes, and the clinical people who are working, they see the kind of change that they're bringing to the system. It's hard, especially when we talk about, or when we try and justify funds for quality improvement, because it takes time to see the result of it, unlike buildings. So I do have a hard time, my team have a hard time in trying to justify funds and where it is required. However, with this initiative, with what we can show, the differences that we make, I believe we can actually have the build a culture of quality within our system. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Taslina Osman, for sharing the perspectives. As you said rightly, the small steps are the beginning towards the bigger changes, and all the initiatives are the incentives for a healthcare worker to improve the working way and towards a culture of quality of care delivery at the grassroots level. And as you said rightly, showcasing is an important aspect of actually bringing all the stakeholders and the administrators and the higher ups to know actually what is going on at the grassroots level. And it's very fortunate that the team has the support of the administrators and the higher ups so that it makes it easier for teams to actually work towards the quality improvement initiatives. Thank you very much for sharing with us. Now we move on to our next speaker, Ms. Sara Fatima, who is the quality improvement from the Quality Improvement Department, Indira Gandhi Memorial Hospital, Maldives. She is going to share with us the role of QISL in the Indira Gandhi Memorial Hospital. So now I request Ms. Sara Fatima to share her experience.
So it will be great if Sara can open her camera as well and share the screen, please.
I think it's Sheenis now. They've changed the name. I mean the person. Sheenis. Can you give the access to Sheenis?
Yeah, we'll just.
Sheenis is using the phone.
Yeah, Vikram sir, can you just make
Sheenis is the one who has messaged in the chat.
Yeah, just a moment, sir. Just a moment, sir. What is the spelling, sir? Just a moment. I'll just start.
SHEEN.
SHEE. Yeah.
N.
Shinish Rashid.
Right.
Yeah, I'll just make co-host. So you've given the permission. She can put on the video as well as the audio. Yeah. Please go ahead, ma'am. Good to go, ma'am.
Yeah, share screen. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, you're audible. Yes.
Yes, audible.
Okay. Just give me a few minutes to share the screen. Okay. Drive.
So Ashna, do we have the slides we can show from here?
I'm afraid we don't have the slides for it. We could
Can
probably.
Can we move to the next session by the time they can fix the slides at her end?
Right.
So
Can we
Faisal
move
is
to the
ready.
next?
So meanwhile, now we'll move to the next speaker. This is Dr. Ahmed Faisal, who is a consultant pediatrician in Indira Gandhi Memorial Hospital, and he's a quality improvement coach. He's going to share with us.
We can continue with Dr. Ahmed Faisal and then we can get back to ma'am later after this session. Yeah, Dr. Faisal, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm I'm a pediatrician in IGMH. I'm sorry, my video is not coming so for some reason.
That should be fine, sir. Please
So
go ahead.
after Dr. Rajesh said about the beach part, I think it has gone. So I'm a pediatrician, and I have been actually been able to be trained with the CRO team in 2016, and then since then I have been working in the quality improvement along with the newborn care. So it's kind of a compact thing. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and I think we are able to go ahead with a lot of work before. So in this presentation, I'll be talking about basically the POCI in Maldives and how what trainings we have received and the trainings we conducted, and as well as the training we have given in our hospital, which is the IGMH, Indira Gandhi Memorial Hospital, and some of the POI projects we have conducted, as well as some of our experience from the field. So this is how it started. I think even before 2016, probably Taslima will know actually before this, I think there were trainings, but we had the opportunity to be in the regional workshop in 2016. And after that, in September, there was training of the trainers in Maldives by the CRO, and then Dr. Fiorari and as well as Nigel, Dr. Nigel was there, and there was a big actually training for a lot of people participating in there. And after that, there was again with the help of CRO and AIMS, Prof. Fiorari and came to Maldives, and then we are able to conduct what we call the package. So in this, actually, there is a 5-day training, actually 3 days for essential newborn care, and then 2 days for the quality improvement, which was done in November 2016. And with that, actually, after that, actually, we started our QI trainings in the country. And then, of course, there was an inter-country training in Seattle in 2018 as well. So this is the training, while the training was conducting in Maldives. So after that, actually, I was also introduced by Prof. Fiorari to this IHI as well as Harvard course. And also I was able to do some online courses for the QI as well. And if anyone is new to QI, I think it will be a good opportunity to get that course as well. It's free. It's free. And in IGMH, we started just after the newborn care by Prof. Fiorari and AIMS team. In 2016, we had conducted a QI training for our NICU staffs, and that's how actually it started in IGMH. And from 2016 December until 2019, we conducted trainings to other atolls, and Dr. Jenny was in charge of it, and she was able to get support from WHO as well as UNICEF in different ways for different atolls. And in 2019, we had a QI training in IGMH, and that's how actually the trainings were conducted, and then we were able to proceed with some of the QI projects. And this is the map of Maldives. What the Q here stands for the workshop that we have conducted from north to south of Maldives. We had about, I think, 15 workshops. As I mentioned, it is about 275 participants. I think only 4 atolls were left to be completed, but even then, I think the smaller atolls. We had at least 2 participants from each atoll actually to be in this workshop. So basically, we have trained them in newborn care as well as QI trainings, and these are just a few pictures from those workshops. I was also able to conduct a QA training. This is quite interesting. I think it may be interesting for some of you as well. This is out of the hospital care. Actually, we conducted a QA project for thalassemia patients. We had this with the Thalassemia Society. We did this in Thalassemia Day, International Thalassemia Day, and there were 60 participants in that. And what we did is a QA project to decrease their iron load actually. And then from the 60 participants, there were 13 participants who actually were continuing the project. And this is what you can see before the project and after the projects. Definitely most of the almost all of them actually were able to cut down their protein levels. And this is maybe interesting for some of you, because this out of the hospital care, actually the patients themselves try to improve their iron overload, because Maldives has a lot of thalassemia patients, and of course the majority of them actually pass away due to complications due to iron overload. So many of the thalassemia patients actually were very, very interested in this, and they want to continue this even this year. This is the projects we came with in our NICU setup, and this is the one in pediatric ward, the one we conducted later on. Asma will present this project, and we had a few projects continued even in the labor room, in the gynae ward, as well as in the NICU. So these are just at the start of the QI. So you will find the topic actually. The topic is not very well presented actually. Like some of them are mixed with other projects. So the headings may not be really applicable. But anyway, we had some projects for the delayed to improve the feeding practice in NICU, and we had hand washing. We had a project for sepsis, and also for the phototherapy. We had projects for the dosage. We had projects for the breastfeeding and hypothermia. And this hypothermia project was actually continued with the gynae team as well. And we had another project for hospital admissions and the discharges. This is the one Asma will present. Actually, some of these projects we have been able to complete, but however, we don't have that bunch of documentation as beautifully presented by this project. This is the best project that had the best documentation, I think. And initially, actually, I was trying to get the projects online from my blog. I had some of these projects being detailed in the website as well. So I was looking back at what actually we have been doing and what we could do further. And this is the from CRO booklet for improving the quality of care for reproductive, maternal, child and adolescent health. And if you see, there are 7 criteria or 7 categories that we have to look at to improve further into the QI projects. So what we are seeing actually is from the initial, if you see the 1, 2, 3, 4 here, we have actually started the QI project. I would say we have introduced it almost all over the country. We have identified the leaderships who can actually do the projects. We have identified the champions as well during those days. And I think we have also defined the roles as well, but I think we need to have a continued connection between the central and the peripheral level. So I think this is what is missing, because many of the times what happens is actually once we start the projects, it kind of gets stuck somewhere, and then nobody's monitoring it, so nobody's reporting it, so somewhere it gets lost. The second one is about the standards of care. As Taslima said, the Ministry of Health has actually come up with some standards, and then I think now we need an assessment tool to see how much we are actually following these having these standards. And definitely for the newborn care, we were quite lucky that we have got some guidelines, very good guidelines from the WHO and AIMS collaboration. So all the ATOs actually will have these guidelines, and definitely we can follow them to see how much we are achieving. And the other is the assessment, the current tool. I think for this we have actually trained clinicians, the doctors and nurses as well. And now we need to disseminate it throughout the country. And the number fourth one is the improvement. So for the improvement, I think we need some, we definitely has created the teams, and definitely we have to revisit and see how the teams are working. And we need a collaborative approach actually, because a lot of times it's not only it's not the only job that they have to do. They do many other things as well. So definitely once we collaborate, probably we can do better. And definitely we need to refresh, I think, the QI training. Probably we can do it online as well if we are not allowed nowadays because of the COVID. People are stuck in their center. So probably we can do an online refresher. So looking back at the other parameters, I think we need to move on with our improvement projects and then monitor as well as documentation and dissemination. We need to write up our pillar projects, and we need to find a way where we can showcase our projects so that other people can have a look and see. And this is, I just try to see from the SWOT analysis of our POCI and see what we have, what strengths we have, what weakness and opportunities and threats. Definitely we have champions, we have enthusiastic teams as strengths. We have identified the issues such as, you can see some of the issues, just show you on these pictures. For example, hand washing, sometimes there is no facilities actually to have a proper hand washing. For dengue fever, of course, there is a lot of breeding sites and malpractice, like the pricking in the wrong place in the sole and in the settings of the in the labor room, which there's no protocol pasted on the walls, and I think it could help a lot of things. And what are the weakness? We actually don't, I don't think we actually has a proper culture of improvement yet, because what we have seen is a lot of times we are not very eager to own the issues. We find it easy to find the issues in other wards rather than our own wards. So I think we need a better culture of improvement. And definitely always is the doctors and nurses are always busy. Even during the workshop, it was difficult for some of the centers to release the nurses and doctors to our workshops. And definitely we need coordination. Sometimes we have conducted many of the workshops on QI and facility-based newborn care by HPA, by Dr. Jenny's team. But I don't think actually from HPA and Ministry of Health, even there was a better, we need a better coordination so that the QI, the quality control team will know about our projects, and then probably they can coordinate and move this in a better level. And of course, we have many opportunities, especially we have a very good support from CRO, and we thank the team from the CRO, especially Dr. Rajesh and the team. And now we have Indian teams, Indian quality control teams as well. So thank you, Dr. Vikram, for this presentation as well. And then, of course, we also have a lot of published technical support. If you want to read, there's this lot of support from CRO and a lot of publication from WHO. So definitely we have resources, technical support as well. The only thing now I think we must have is the will and the ideas and to execute the projects. And of course, the threats, as usual, are these unexpected additional tasks like the COVID, the pandemics that makes us stuck somewhere. But definitely, what we have learned from our COVID is also that it is showing that we need quality improvement. We need timely interventions. We need efficient, effective, efficient, safe, and patient-centered health system to improve the mortality and morbidity of our health system. So that's all from me. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Faisal Ahmed, for the excellent insights regarding the way you have taken up the quality improvement initiatives at your setup and how you're thinking of scaling it up. Thank you very much for the share. Okay. Now I welcome Ms. Asma Ahmed, who is the clinical nurse, and she is going to tell us regarding her experience of overcoming the barriers to time to discharge from the pediatric ward. So now I request Ms. Asma Ahmed to kindly share her experience.
I'm Asma Ahmed, and I'm a clinical nurse working in pediatrics ward IGMH. And the quality improvement project we have done is overcoming barriers to timely discharge from pediatric ward. The idea of quality improvement and QI projects was first introduced to us by Dr. Faisal and Dr. Nyasha in October 2016. And in this workshop, we identified the problems in our work environment, which can be improved with such quality improvement projects. So in our group, what we did was we identified the major issues and found that delays in discharges were one of the major problems. So although hospital demonstrators and administrators encourage early discharge of patients and to vacate the beds as soon as possible, often discharges were pending till late evening or until the next day also in our case. This delay in discharge process caused a backlog for new admissions from ER and OPD, and also for transferring from other clinical areas. Apart from this blockage for admissions, it also increased the patient dissatisfaction and complaints. So what we did was we collected a baseline data to understand the time spent in each step of discharge process, and also the possible causes of the delays. And for 3 consecutive days, in various steps, we have taken the time spent, and our baseline data found that on average, discharge patients spend about 9 hours after the discharge advice till they go home. And that is only 17% of the patients were able to leave the ward within 4 hours from the time they are advised discharge. So our aim of the project was to increase the percentage of discharge patients who leave the ward within 4 hours of discharge advice from 17% to 50% by 4 weeks. And then we had our team who are enthusiastic, involved, and influential from every level. We had from registered nurses, ward manager, pediatricians, and medical officers in our team. After that, when we looked at the literature, we found some success stories of a similar project done at Hamad General Hospital in Doha, Qatar, which was also aimed to increase their proportion of discharged patients who leave the ward by 12 p.m. They had morning discharges, but since we do not have a specific time for discharge and our work environment is a bit different than theirs, we adapted that project and developed our project. So when we analyzed the problem with Fishbone, we found that there were problems with place, people, policy, and procedure, which was sometimes out of our hands. For example, patient distribution and location of pediatric units in the hospital were different in different buildings. So if we wanted to correct it, we need human resources and infrastructure changes. So we went in to Pareto rule, and then we found that more than 80% of the discharges were getting late, not because of the other problems, but it was due to delay in writing the discharge summary. So that was changeable for us. So we started correcting that problem through that. And then we had the first PDSA cycle, and we started planning discharges ahead and writing the discharge advice at least one day ahead for selected patients. That is, for example, patients who are on IV antibiotics, we know what time the antibiotic will be completed. So, and then check routine labs before morning rounds, complete planned discharges at night or evening shift, and then supervise the MOs to complete the discharges. And in the do stage, we introduced the project on October 2016, and then discussed which patients to select for discharge. And then we made the chart. We made the chart to identify the planned discharges and let medical officers know about it. And so we had this particular chart in the ward. So the MOs, when they come, they know which patients are planned for discharge the next day. So they will complete the discharges, and then they will either draw a circle or they will write saved. So the next MO also knows which discharges are already completed. Then in the study, regular data collection and drawing the run chart was done to see the progress of the QI project. And regular communication and doctors is always needed to ensure that early discharge planning is conducted. So this is the first run chart we had from October 2016. So when we started, initially there was some resistance among staff because it is an added workload for them. So with proper supervision and monitoring, now we are able to maintain the percentage above our target, which is more than 50%. So, and this one is the last 3 months data. So with the current pandemic going on, also we are able to maintain our target. Although we are maintaining these data now, in between there were some disconnections, but again we came back and then found that even though we don't have this as a guideline or a protocol in our hospital, we are able to maintain this with the QI project. So for the sustainability of the project, this picture shows the data collection that is going on now. Also, continuous monitoring and engagement of staff with regular feedback are the most important factors in achieving and sustaining the improvement in timely discharge of the patients from our ward. Thank you. That is the project we have done.
Thank you, Ms. Ashma, for sharing your experience. And yes, as you said rightly, all the stakeholders were involved, and that helped you to sustain with your project. And with all the challenges, still all of you thought of overcoming them. That itself is quite commendable. Thank you once again for sharing with us your experience. Now I request Dr. Shinis Rashid to present us this thing. And I think Dr. Faisal is going to share his screen for the present slides.
I am Sheenis Rashid. Actually, I'm a clinical nurse. I have been working in IGMS since 2001 as a clinical nurse. At present, I'm working in the quality improvement department. With me here is my QID team. Even Dr. Murad, our acting HOD, also has joined the meeting. And with me here is clinical nurse Sarah and clinical nurse Aishat Niaza, and also our team member, ward manager Fazila is also here. Okay. So mainly our presentation will be based on the quality improvement work at IGMH. So first I would like to present about the video. Okay, I would like to present about the role of quality improvement department. So the role and mandates are distributed into 4 units of our department. That is the clinical effectiveness and patient experience unit, the healthcare quality and standards development unit, the infection prevention and control unit, and the patient safety and risk management unit. So the role of the clinical effectiveness and patient experience unit is to improve the clinical effectiveness, to improve patient experience. Then healthcare quality and standard development unit, we develop quality improvement, assurance and related tasks and the functions. And we also develop the standard related tasks and functions. And in the infection prevention and control unit, the work that we do in infection prevention and control unit is infection prevention and control, that is IPC related tasks, infection prevention, and we also have an infection prevention and control committee under this unit. And we manage the healthcare waste and also IPC related surveillance. Then next is the patient safety and risk management unit. Under this unit comes patient safety and risk management issues, develop methodology to address and incorporate Joint Commission International Patient Safety Goals, incident management, patient safety and risk management committee also comes under the patient safety and risk management unit. Next slide. So here, okay, ongoing work on quality improvement. These are the ongoing work on quality improvement in QID. We are at present we are working towards NABH accreditation. We have initiated this work in 2019, and still we are working towards accreditation. Then next is allocation and training, quality and safety focal points for each area. So now we are identifying quality and focal points from different areas of the hospital, and we will be conducting the training for the focal points. The next is to strengthen functioning of the existing committees, that is the patient safety and risk management committee and the infection prevention and control committee. Then we are also working on to appoint a QI consultant on short-term basis. This has been not successful. Yet it is not successful, so we are working towards this to get a QI consultant. So we need support for this. Then so POCK trainings held at IGMS. So first we have started the training in March 2018. Dr. Faisal has initiated the training with us, and the number of participants were 26. And the number of projects initially initiated in 2018 was 6. We'll be going into the details of this. And in November 2018, also Dr. Faisal has conducted the training, and the number of participants was 30. Number of projects initiated was 6, and the number of projects completed were 2. Next slide. So next is POCI projects initiated after the March 2018 training. So 14 ER, the project initiated was a long waiting time in green zone. The aim of this project was to reduce waiting time for patients in green zone waiting area for consultation by 30% from the current baseline waiting time within 6 months. It was initiated but not able to complete. Some changes were brought. Next is team OBG and Gynae delay in discharge process of admitted patients. For this project, the aim was to increase the percentage of discharge patients who leave ward B and C within 6 hours of discharge order by 40% from the month of April 2008. Unfortunately, this project also was not completed. Then next is the next project was on medical ward. It was to worsening of pre-existing bed sores for patients admitted in medical ward. The aim was to reduce worsening of existing bed sores in medical ward by 75% by the next 3 months. It was also not completed. Then the project that team QID initiated was to decrease compliance to incident reporting of medication error in Prato 2, 3, and 4. And the aim was to increase compliance to reporting of medication errors as Prato 2, 3, 4 from 10% to 50% within 4 months. We initiated this project but were not able to complete it. Then team surgery, delay in transfer of shifting patient to OT for emergency surgery. This project was changed to delay in discharge summary of admitted patients, and they were working on this new project. It was to decrease the time taken for discharge process to 50% from the baseline. The project was initiated, but it was also not completed. And the next is from the PEDS, that is hypothermia in newborns to decrease the incidence of hypothermia. Then next. Other projects initiated were in ICU, reducing post-cleaning surface growth to reduce hospital-acquired infection. This project was successfully completed. And then from ICU, they did a presentation also based on this. Then in OBG8, to reduce the incidence of hypothermia in neonates admitted by the mother's side after birth in OBG8 from current baseline 60% to nil or 0% in the next 4 weeks. This project restarted on 1st January 2019 and the goal was achieved. In dialysis also, one project was continued, that was exploration of dialysis catheter related infection among hemodialysis patients in dialysis center. The project was completed. Next, yeah. Then laboratory turnaround time for emergency department hematology reports. We are not able to get the result of this yet. Then Vilimala Health Center emergency referral protocol. The project was not completed and in isolation. Also communication gap among nurses in clinical handover. This project also was not completed. Now again they are working on this project. Then in labor room in 2018, to provide skin-to-skin contact within 10 minutes of birth from baseline, 0 to 30% of vigorous babies who are born in IGMH labor room within 4 weeks. This skin-to-skin was maintained between 30% to 60%. That was the result. Then in ICU 2019, early mobilization in intensive care unit. This project has been started yet it's not completed. For the what? No. So I would like to briefly describe about the successfully completed projects. I think Asma has presented this topic just now. In pediatric, they did the project to overcome barriers to timely discharge from pediatric ward. Then in ICU, to ensure clean and safe environment for the patient admitted under ICU care by reducing surface growth up to more than 80%. So the result was March 2018 to March 2019, 25 samples were analyzed, and out of which 3 cubicles were with 0% growth and 14 cubicles were within the targeted range with a success rate of 56%. Then at dialysis center, the exploration of dialysis catheter related infection among hemodialysis patient in dialysis center was also, this project also was successful. I would also like to discuss about the challenges for carrying out POCI projects. One of the challenges is time constraints due to inadequate human resources. We also have an inadequate number of trained staff. At present, we are in the COVID-19 pandemic situation. We are having insufficient motivation. Minimal attention is given to documentation. Sustaining change and securing sustainability, minimal opportunities to share success stories, absence of safety culture within the unit and team members. Then another challenge, the challenges for the functioning of QID department also we would like to discuss, that is absence of a QI consultant at quality improvement department, the absence of staff trained on healthcare quality, lack of training areas and lack of meeting rooms, absence of safety culture within the organization. A lack of safety culture. Thank you, that's all. Thank you, Dr. Faisal, for sharing the slides.
Thank you, Ms. Enes, for sharing your role of the quality department in IGMH. And it's nice that you have been a part, your team is also part of today's webinar. It's really good to have the team along. And very nicely, you have summed up all the quality improvement project which your setup is taking up, and you have actually looked into the challenges as well. So after analyzing the challenges, perhaps all the teams can actually move forward and identifying the problem as it is taught in all quality improvement steps. First is identification, which you all have done beautifully. So hopefully in the coming times, all these projects will see the final completion and continuation of the initiatives which will help in improving the quality of care which we deliver to our patients. Thank you very much. So once again, I thank everybody on behalf of Nationwide Quality of Care Network, Dr. Rajesh Mehta sir, and the Maldives teams led by Ms. Taslima Usman, Dr. Faisal, Ms. Shiniz, Sarah and her team, and all the attendees from Maldives, and all the esteemed panelists and our attendees for attending this very important cross-learning experience sharing sessions. With this, once again, I thank our NQSN office team, Dr. Rahul, Dr. Ashna, Dr. Sonam, for all the hard work they have done to bring this webinar into a smooth conduction and a conclusion. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend.